Hey guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, April the 22nd, 2024. And geez, I wonder what we're going to talk about tonight. What a weekend of boxing. Of course, I'm referring to the Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney fight in New York. But it's been plenty of talk over the last, well, I was going to say 24 hours, but maybe 36 hours, whatever it has been. But what a performance from Ryan Garcia. It didn't lift the WBC belt, the 140-pound belt, but I think he, more importantly than the belt itself, has reinvented himself. Arguably now the face of boxing. This guy could be an absolute superstar. We've got a few people in the chat at the moment. What have we got there? We've got Glenn, Asbot, Casper, Victor, and looks like Kyle there. How are you, boys? I'll get to your comments in a second there, but plenty to discuss tonight. And as I said, I'm sure there'll be lots of different angles to the Haney and Garcia fight, because I think it sometimes depends on what side of the fence you happen to be on, as who you support and your perspective of it. I've seen Ryan Garcia supporters with their views. I've seen Devin Haney's supporters with their views, and it's amazing how contrasting they actually are. And obviously we'll go through that tonight, because no doubt there'll be a lot of you on both sides of the fence. So let's get to a couple of comments as well. If it comes up, of course, we'll talk about the No Limit show on Wednesday night, and also the show last week with Ace Boxing's event in Brisbane. What did you think of that as well? Let's get the ball rolling. We'll start with Glenn. How are you, Glenn? Yeah, the fight was fun. I've rewatched it. I really believed it somewhat exposed Haney. Yeah, it was not a bad point, Glenn, and that has been a lot of the common thread in the last 24 hours, hasn't it? What now for Devin Haney? Was he overrated? Was Ryan Garcia underrated? I mean, there's been lots of things going around. Look, he was exposed in certain areas, Glenn. That's probably a given. But in some good ways as well. I think there's no doubt what was exposed. The guy's got ticker. When needed and needs to dig in hard, he can dig in. The problem was he was exposed that a little bit shaky. He's never really been tagged that hard, by someone in the class of Ryan Garcia, and with a little bit of luck from the referee. And I know that's probably another point of conjecture that will come up as well, that Ryan Garcia would have got the job done inside the distance. But that was probably the first thing. The other thing is that what it showed is that if you're able to get close to Devin Haney, rough him up, land the shots, obviously, that not a lot of people, even Lomachenko, had troubles getting close enough to Haney to land good shots. I know he landed some good, but not real power shots. And that was probably the next thing, that he's vulnerable if you get in close and really get physical with him. And look, there's probably lots of other things that will probably come up as well, but it's easy to heap criticism on a fighter that's just been beaten. Remember, we were here, a year ago when Ryan was stopped by Gervonta Davis, and he copped it from everywhere, including me. I was very critical of him. I did, and even to this day, I'll stand by that. I think he quit. I think he took a knee and didn't want to continue. I thought that was a little bit too hard for him. But geez, yesterday, I'm now a 180 convert. I was so impressed with the game plan. Not just the game plan itself, but the ability to actually put it into practice was magnificent. The poise, composure, went when he had to go, backed off when he needed to back off. And I just thought it was just a complete performance by Ryan Garcia. So, but yeah, I'm sure everyone's got their own points of view there. Glenn, let's get to Asbot. Good to see Bill Haney shut his mouth. Yeah, well, I must admit, I was happy with that as well, Asbot. And look, I'm not saying Bill Haney is not a good man. I mean, he came to Australia, and by all reports was very, very well received here. But I can't get past the whole carrying on and making it about him. A little bit, not like or unlike a lot of fathers of boxers out there. We've seen it with so many of them, and there's too many to probably rattle off. But you know the ones I'm talking about, and I just want them to realise it's not about them. I mean, we've had Tyson Fury's dad, John Fury, take his shirt off and actually go to face off with Francis Ngannou. And that's just probably one example. And Bill Haney getting into scuffles on stage with Bernard Hopkins and everything, and knowing full well that Bernard Hopkins can't do anything about it, by the way. So it's amazing how brave you can be when you know there's no repercussions, especially with an all-time great like Bernard Hopkins. But I'm with you there, Asbot. Look, I don't think it's normally his character. From those that I know that have met him, he's actually a really, really nice guy. But I just, not just Bill, but a lot of these fathers that get involved, just step aside. It's not all about you. Stop trying to live your dreams through your son. Just take a step back, let them do their thing. I mean, even seen a little bit of Ryan Garcia's dad afterwards as well. That was actually pretty funny. If you haven't seen it, Eddie Hearn was doing an interview on some media channel, and he actually went to say congratulations to Ryan Garcia's dad, who just happened to be walking past in the back change rooms, and a few pleasantries going back and forth. It was so funny because Ryan Garcia's dad told Eddie Hearn where to go, and Eddie Hearn, being Eddie Hearn, snapped straight back and told him where to go. And by the end of it, they'd shaken hands and pretty much made an agreement to fight Boots Ennis down the track. So it was quite funny. But yeah, not just Bill Haney but I just want to see all dads step aside and let the sons do their thing. So still with Asbot there. Garcia Haney was a breath of fresh air for a mega fight. Over-delivered. So many big fights are a letdown. Yeah, I agree. Asbot. Look, the complete opposite was the case leading up to the fight itself. And I've said on here a few times that I was almost looking forward to this fight just being done and dusted so we could move on, because I was so over these two guys acting like horses' asses, I suppose is the best way to describe it. But to see them actually on fight night, both the consummate professionals, Ryan Garcia especially, we knew what we're going to get from Devin Haney. He's just Devin Haney. He's always turns up in shape and ready to go and has the same sort of demeanor. But I think I commented on the live watch along that we did that I was really just intrigued to see what was going to happen with Ryan Garcia, because in the change rooms, I know he had the violins going in there, the old Titanic guys playing the violins in the background, which was sort of a little bit ironic, but he was really composed when all that stuff had been done and it was time for business. Really focused on the job and just ready to go, from his demeanor in the change rooms to when he walked out to the ring. When he got in the ring, a couple little words as Devin Haney went past, but that was probably about it. So I was really impressed by that, and it carried over into the fight, and we got a hell of a fight. And you're right, Asbot, it is a breath of fresh air to get a massive fight, mega fight that you've said there, and it actually not just delivered, but over-delivered in the fight itself, the drama, the excitement. It was just one of those fights for the ages, which is unbelievable to consider that we were probably here a week ago saying, geez, is the fight going to go ahead? Is Ryan going to make it to the ring? And he's just pulled off one of the greatest trolls, as I've been saying today, in probably boxing history. It's just amazing. A little bit probably like back to Muhammad Ali and George Foreman. Back then, Muhammad Ali did everything he could to talk himself up and psych himself up with his antics, and knew all along what he was going to do when he got in there. And a little bit similar to yesterday. Again, I'll say it, they fought 6 times in the amateurs. They knew each other very, very well. And, so Ryan Garcia obviously knew something that we didn't know, and he was very, very confident of getting the job done, and he went in there and delivered perfectly. So I'm with you there, Asbot. There's Casper, Munro, Lynch. How are you, Casper? Do you think those 2 slips in the 7th round were clear knockdowns? They weren't clear knockdowns, Casper. They were. Look, I've seen instances like that where there has been called knockdowns, but as we discussed, or a lot of people have been discussing, the referee, look, I don't think he was deliberately going out of his way to help Devin Haney, but he didn't have a great night, the referee. I think one, if not 2 of those knockdowns or slips or whatever was ruled at the end could have indeed been knockdowns. End of the day, it didn't matter. But geez, the controversy that would have happened today, even if it was a draw, or obviously if it went to Haney, even the point where Ryan Garcia got the point taken off. Now, I think it was there, and it was a very silly thing to do by Ryan Garcia, but I also said in the watch along, geez, I really hope it doesn't come down to this deciding the fight. And when the first scorecard was read out and it was a draw, I must admit I took a deep breath internally and thought, are they going to rob Ryan Garcia, or either take the decision away from him or make it a draw? And luckily it didn't come to that. But to answer your question there, Caspar, I don't think they were clear knockdowns. I got no problem with the referee calling them slips. even though at the time I was a little bit surprised. But looking at the replay, I haven't got an issue with it. What's that, Victor? I think your comments have come up the wrong way, I think. What do we got there? We'll go back and see. So the jump from 140 to 147 seems to be one of the most difficult. The size/power, and I believe that is the max weight for 8-ounce gloves. It is welterweight. Yep, 147 is 8 ounce. Do you see Ryan and Devon trying to stay at 140 like Josh Taylor? Well, Ryan's already said he's probably going to go up, Victor. And he's already actually said he might even go all the way up to 154 and fight Fundora. I think Fundora's got a few other fights in front of him before that. But again, it's amazing how hot you get just by one win. But 147 is a cutoff point for 8-ounce gloves. I think I can see Devon Haney staying at 140 for another couple of fights at least. I think he wants to. You'll probably have unfinished business. I'm not even sure the rematch actually takes place. I've just got a feeling, well, Ryan Garcia is going to want it at 147 or at least a catch weight of maybe 145. Does Devon Haney go up in weight? I'm surprised the WBC have allowed Devon Haney to keep the belt. I said again in the watch along yesterday that WBO said before Tim's ended up being cancelled with the Thurman situation that if he lost to Thurman, they would strip him. So I'm surprised that the WBC didn't follow suit. But I don't see Ryan staying at 140. Victor, as I said, he's already said he's going to move up. But Devon Haney, I think he'll stay there for 2 or 3 more fights. And then he'll move up. But if the rematch with Ryan happens, it will not be at 140. I would say there'll be no title on the line like yesterday, and it'll be at probably 145 or something like that I think will be acceptable. But one thing that will change, of course, Ryan Garcia, well, he was the A side yesterday, but he'll be a massive A side if they fight again. He'll get a lion's share of the money. We know he's going to get the attention, but all things have changed now. Ryan is predominantly Ryan was sort of the A side as far as the promotion of the event goes, but Haney being the champion deserved the A side billing. But now, as I said, that's all been flipped on its head. So, but yeah, time will tell. Still with Victor, I felt it was Devon, the referee, and the judges versus Ryan in the fight. Love to hear your thoughts on the fight. Well, the fight itself, look, I did the review, so if you haven't seen it, check it out. But look, I don't think, well, the judges obviously weren't against Ryan. Maybe one of them were Victor because he scored at the draw. I'm not sure how you could. Well, I'm not sure how you could score at a draw. A lot of rounds, especially early, could have gone either way. And Devon won a lot of early rounds, and there was a few in the middle that could have gone either way. And don't forget, and I was very critical of at the time, Ryan gave away round 12, which I thought was a massive mistake. I thought he had to go out there and close the show and make no mistake, which made me even more nervous for Ryan that he'd blown it in the last round, whether it was a decision win to Devon or a draw. But obviously it was Devon. The referee, as I said, Victor, I just think he had a bad night. It was just one of those nights where he probably thought he was doing the right thing and just kept putting his foot in it the whole way. Ryan didn't help by sort of complaining a little bit. But yeah, look, I don't know. We always say that with the, with a fighter sometimes in these big fights. But overall, I thought everyone was okay, especially the judges. They got it right in the end. That's the main thing, Victor. They got it right, and that's all that matters in the end. And the referee, I think he'll take stock of this and hopefully put in a better performance next time. But don't forget, Harvey Dock is a very, very good referee, one of the best in the business, and they've all been prone to having bad nights. So let's just hope this is him. All right, Kyle, what do you got there, mate? Ryan's living proof. Sometimes crazy works. Well, he played us all like a piano, didn't he, Kyle? We all had doubts about the fight. I mean, even right up to after the weigh-in, people are calling for this fight to be cancelled, saying he's not mentally prepared for this fight. We can't put him in there with one of the best in the business in Devon Haney. And right from when he got on the scales, of course, he didn't make weight. And that's another point of contention. What do we think about that? There's been a lot of people say it was an unfair advantage. I've got my own thoughts on that we'll talk about a little bit later. But chugging the beer, as it was apple juice and sparkling water on the scale. So, look, he played us all, including Devon Haney. He got all Devon Haney all rolled up, got him all defrosted to the point where he was trying to chase Ryan Garcia down and got himself caught. So he's a very, very smart man, is Ryan Garcia. A lot smarter than we thought he was. All right, Glenn, I honestly think Tio and Matthias stop him. and Pitbull gives him hell as well. Yeah, look, it's a classic case, Glenn, of styles make fights. I know it's a cliche and we always say it, but it is 100% correct. And this is why in yesterday's fight, Ryan Garcia was able to do things that better fighters than him haven't been able to do. And boxing history is littered with examples like this of similar type of things. So, yeah, look, I don't think Teo stop him, Glenn. I think I would back Teofimo Lopez to beat Ryan Garcia by outpointing him. And Matias, again, I said yesterday, to me, he's still unproven. I know he's got the reputation. I'm not fully convinced on Matias yet, Glenn, because you're only as good as your opposition. He's looked really good so far with the opposition he's fought. But until he fights one of these superstars, we'll call them, or the A-graders of these weight divisions, whether it be anywhere between sort of 135 and 145, I just can't rate him, Glenn. Even if he beats Liam Paro, I still don't give him the due. Now, he might prove me wrong and beat all of them. I don't know, but I just refuse to put Matias, however you pronounce it, we'll call him Matias, into the category of Teofimo and Tank and Garcia and Haney, even Shakur if he happens to move up around that weight. I just don't put it in Lomachenko, of course. I don't put him in that yet because we just haven't seen him in a big fight yet, a really big fight I'm talking about against those A-graders. So until then, I'm just going to reserve judgment. Pitbull would be interesting. That would be a really, really good fight. I'm not quite sure who I would go for in that. I've still got a feeling that that Ryan might have enough, although the way Pitbull looked a few weeks ago, he would be a tough fight for anybody, that mindset he was in. So let's just hope we see these fights, Glenn, because there's some ripper ones out there. All right. Now, I'm not sure if we're going backwards here, guys. The comments seem to be upside down, but we'll see. The face of boxing, are you on crazy pills? Well, the proof's in the pudding, Kyle. He mightn't be the face of boxing and he mightn't be the best role model out there, but at the end of the day, when it comes to the superstars of boxing, he's got to be it. Besides Canelo, you know, I know you can probably name a few other fighters that are probably better fighters than Ryan, but as far as being that absolute superstar that can sell massive pay-per-views, and we all know about the social media and everything else. The only thing I don't like about being the face of boxing, of course, is the probably example, that he may set to some people. But I don't think you can begrudge, Cole, that besides Canelo, he's probably the hottest boxer in the world. And I know that the Crawfords and Inoue's and all these type of fighters are better fighters and higher up the pound-for-pound rankings, but you can't escape the fact that Ryan Garcia is an absolute superstar. Put his name on any billboard in the country and a lot over the world, and you're going to sell a shitload of pay-per-views and tickets. So that's just the way it is, in my opinion. Mutsy says, mixing the weight soured the win for me a bit. He was massive. He did look massive, didn't he, Mutsy? And there's been some pictures on social media today with the comparison to the the Tank Davis fight and yesterday's fight, and the size difference is big. And I think, what was it, 136 for the Tank Davis fight, and he was 143 in this one, so 7 pounds, so 3.5 kilos, if you will. So it's a fair bit of weight, especially at that size of fighter. I mean, a little bit different if you're a middleweight or light heavyweight, whatever it might be, but when you're a lightweight / super lightweight, it's a lot. So look, I have seen that a little bit, Mutsy, that it did sour the win a little bit, and I do agree with it to some extent that the agreed weight was 140. He deliberately didn't make it. I don't care what anyone says. It wasn't. You could tell by even a few days before he wasn't going to make the weight. I won't say he looked chubbier, but he looked full. Normally in the lead up to the fight, and you would have seen the comparison, Devin Haney, sunken in jawline and cheekbones and the eye sockets. Ryan Garcia didn't have any of that leading up to the fight. Now, I have actually seen instances where they actually do look really healthy up until the day before the weigh-in, and they suck the life out of themselves in the last 24 hours to weigh in, and they look like skeletons, and then they rehydrate again, which I don't really agree with, by the way. But he did have that size about him. But yeah, on the principle alone, Mutsy, the fact that he didn't even really try to make weight, I know it was more about getting the win and the belts didn't care, but didn't matter. But end of the day, he signed the contract for 140. He knew he wasn't going to make the weight. He allowed Devin Haney to kill himself to make 140. So he's got the last laugh, I suppose. But on the flip side of that, at the end of the day, the contract stipulated 140 for the WBC belt. Now, when he didn't make weight, the WBC belt's off the table. Then it really comes down to whether Devin Haney either wants to go on with the fight. He had every right to pull out, and credit to him that he didn't. But on the other side of the coin, he would have been very, very well compensated. So it would have happened after that first weigh-in. They would have went into a little room, sat down and negotiated. And I've got no doubt it would have cost him a sizable check. Apart from the 1.5 for the weight, I wouldn't be surprised if it was 500, if not $1 million more for the fight to go ahead as a penalty for coming in overweight. So knowing that and then going in with the fight, Devin Haney still knew what he was getting into, and it's not like he wasn't heavily compensated. So you got to keep that in mind too much here. I'm with you. I don't like it. It did sour it just a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's a business. The WBC belt was pulled, and then it came down to a negotiation between the two parties of what is it going to take for the fight to go ahead. And as I said, I've got no doubt it could have been $2 to $2.5 million in total that Devin Haney got to go ahead with the fight. So it's not all just one-way traffic. Again, I don't like what happened with the weight factor, but Devin Haney got very well compensated, and he went and decided to go along with the fight. So you got to sort of give each side the blame. Asbot, not a fan of Haney, but in his defense, I reckon the 3 pounds made a difference. Yeah, well, I think Asbot, when they would have got in the ring, I think the size would have been the same. The weight would have been the same. They might have been 160 to 165. They would have rehydrated. The difference is of course, is that Devin Haney killed himself to make weight, and even though he would have hydrated up, that physical aspect of making the weight would have definitely taken its toll, just like it has in all of his other fights. Whereas Ryan Garcia would have just been a nice, cruisy, hydrate, eat everything else, and would have naturally gone up to that 160, 165, where Devin Haney would have, and I know it's only 3 pounds, but when you kill yourself to make the weight, every pound counts. So definitely made a difference in that aspect, Asbot, because who knows, in the last 2 rounds when the fight was really on the line, Ryan Garcia obviously had a lot more in the tank, and Devin Haney just started to wilt. So maybe that was the difference in the fight. So at the end of the day, it's a master stroke by Garcia. I don't agree with it, but that's boxing, and he played everyone, including Team Haney, for fools, didn't he? So there's Tommy B. How you going, mate? Evening, everyone. I think overall the fight was great for boxing's popularity. Brought in all different fans to watch. We also saw Haney's heart on show, even in defeat. Yeah, that's what I said at the start there, Tommy. It's one thing that hasn't been noted enough is that Devin Haney showed a lot of heart. One thing I will say with Devin Haney that I was really, really disappointed in is he didn't front up to the post-fight press conference. That is unforgivable, and it just reeks of being a sore loser. Now, I know these guys, they've got egos as big as Texas. I get it. He's lost a fight. They're all proud warriors. I understand it, but I've seen fighters get absolutely demolished or embarrassed or lose heartbreaking decision losses, whatever it might be, and they still front up to the post-fight press conference. And he's done it for 35 fights before this one, so I'm really disappointed that he didn't do it for this one, Tommy. But all that aside, the fight itself, I mean, yeah, just I take my hat off to both men. They both showed tremendous heart. And I think Devin Haney definitely showed us a side of him that we weren't quite sure was there. And I don't think we can question the heart factor in Devin Haney. So, and as far as the boxing popularity goes, well, it ended up being a full house. There was doubts that they wouldn't be able to fill the place, and they were discounting tickets. I'm sure there would have been some giveaways at the end, but at the end of the day, it was a full house. The crowd was just electric. It was you could feel the atmosphere almost coming through the screen. It was just a really, really good night for boxing, I think, and people got into it. They got involved. I think there would have been a lot of people out there quietly, as they say, rooting for Ryan Garcia with all the things going on. It was all against him, and he delivered. And I just think it's one of those things, Tommy, where fans out there are talking, and non-fans, by the way, are out there talking about boxing for the right reasons, not the wrong reasons. So it would have been different if he had got ripped off. That would have been a tragedy. But the fact that Ryan Garcia got the job done, I'm sure everyone around the country and a lot of people around the world, like we are now, are talking about this fight. So it's great to see that we haven't given ourselves a black eye for a change. Glenn, yep, the weight definitely played a part. That just highlights how little Garcia thinks of the belt. Yep. And I'm not all against that, Glenn. I've got no issues with the belt situation. The really like the greatest fighters of all time, especially in recent times, the Manny Pacquiao's, Floyd Mayweather's, and these types of guys, have just keep your belt. We don't need it. We're not going to pay $300,000 a belt to put up. They don't need it. Not many fighters fall into that category, by the way. Canelo Alvarez could probably get away with it, and maybe one or two others. But I think Ryan Garcia is maybe look. I think he's ahead of the game. I think in some respects he's a little bit like Floyd Mayweather. The way he approached and embraced the business side of boxing and really played the fans and squeezed every little bit of money out of them and just played his A side to a T to make sure that he was having all the advantages. And I know he gets a lot of flack, Floyd Mayweather, but at the end of the day, I think a lot of people are salty that how well he played the system and the sport. And I think Ryan Garcia, I won't say is a master like Floyd Mayweather was, but he's just put the belt aside and realised that it's not all just about strapping the belt around your waist. Obviously, it's getting the big fights, winning the big fights, giving yourself every advantage or all the ability you need to win the fight, everything to put yourself in a winning position, getting paid the most. Because he would have seen yesterday's fight, especially with the weigh-in factor, saying, "Yeah, well, it might cost me $2.5 million, but when I win this fight," which obviously he did, "I'm going to get an extra $10 million on the next fight that I have because all of a sudden I'm the man." So he's probably looked at it in the big picture format. Keep your $1.5 to $2 million, Devin Haney, for the weight issue, because now I'm going to go on and I'm going to take all the big fights that you had in mind and I'm going to make 5 times that back than that 2.5 that I just lost on this fight. So in that aspect, he's played the system better than anyone since Floyd Mayweather. So again, I tip my hat off to Ryan Garcia and his team. I don't even know whether they knew what was going on. It was just Ryan. Who knows? But end of the day, they got it right. So let's face it, Ryan's left hook is one for the ages. He really, look again, he knew, having shared the ring 6 times with Devin Haney before, even though they were in the amateurs, he knew that he could land the left hook. He knew that he could probably hurt Devin Haney. I only saw the one amateur fight between the two, by the way, but who knows what happened in the other fight. Maybe he landed some hooks, maybe he hurt Devin Haney with hooks, so it gave him the confidence to do it. And if you watch the fight carefully, what he was doing, he was jabbing, well, not even jabbing, he was poking out his left hand to Devin Haney's right hand, and he would then trigger the counter jab. And what he was doing is Ryan Garcia was then coming back with a left hook straight after Devin Haney's counter jab and catching him with that right hand that just tends to slip across his face sometimes. And he went straight in between it and landed the left hook. And not just once, he did it about 5 or 6 times. So really, really good strategy if that was the case. And I would assume that Derek James had a major part in that he would have talked to Ryan and maybe watched those amateur fights and just in conjunction with Ryan worked out a bit of a plan, and whatever it was, it worked perfectly. So, and Devin didn't really have a wasn't able to return fire. Didn't have an answer to what Ryan Garcia was doing, and and that was probably the one disappointing thing from Devin. But end of the day, it's pretty hard to be the best fighter or the fighter that you normally are when you've been rocked several times with big punches. So. What else have we got there? Glenn, Bill's a bit of a dick. Well, he definitely behaved that way, didn't he, Glenn, in certain stages? I actually thought his right hand was pretty handy as well. We did. And I said during the watch-along yesterday, when he landed that first left hook and obviously shook Devin Haney up. But after that, he probably tried a little bit too hard. And he was leading with the hook a lot. And Devin Haney is such a great fighter. He was picking it and reading it and countering a little bit. And I did say that if he started to at least maybe jab and then hook or throw a right hand and left hook, just to give Devin Haney something to think about and whip that left hook in afterwards. But when he was just leading with the hook, Devin Haney could see it coming. And that's when he didn't really have a lot of success for those 2 or 3 rounds when Devin Haney won those rounds. But as I said, as soon as he just started to put something in front of the left hook, Devin Haney just couldn't read it, and we saw what happened, being rocked numerous times and put down, another 2 more times. So there's Bill Hack. How you going there, mate? If Haney fought Kambosos like he fought Ryan, the belts would have stayed home. At the moment, seeing seeing a beer drinking shitbag with belts makes me hate boxing. I want the dedicated gentleman's game back. Oh, look, it's a good point, Bill, but I think deep down, like Ryan Garcia does respect the sport. I think he was just obviously playing the fool. We've seen lots of fighters do it. Floyd Mayweather did it numerous times against Oscar De La Hoya and a few of the others, Ricky Hatton, and that's just one example. But yeah, it wasn't a good look with the beer. I think he put it on social media straight after that it was the sparkling water and the apple juice. Look, I've got to say, Bill, don't necessarily agree with the Haney against Kambosos. I think we saw the same Haney. I just think we saw a style that was more suited to negate Devin Haney than what George Kambosos has. Because you've got to remember, Ryan Garcia being taller might have offset Devin Haney. He's a puncher, of course, at left hook and right hand. He threw some good uppercuts as well. So he had Devin Haney thinking about that as well. You've got to remember George Kambosos is only a small lightweight, so he wasn't really worried about height and reach from George. And also, George is not a big puncher, so he really didn't have anything to really worry about from George Kambosos. So that's probably why he was probably a little bit bolder, I suppose, against George. But with Ryan Garcia, as I said, height and reach and the punching power, and also the fact that he'd been in with him 6 times before, all played a bit of a factor, I think, Bill. But look, end of the day, who knows? They might fight another once, twice, 3 times. Who knows? And it might go back and forth like the amateurs did. But I just think Ryan definitely matched up with him a hell of a lot better than George Kambosos. But it'll be interesting to see in 3 weeks' time how George measures up against Lomachenko. Of course, Haney beat Lomachenko last year, so let's just put that to the test, I suppose, and see how George measures up in comparison to how Haney fought Lomachenko. Kyle, Tim Tszyu is ranked number 1 in the WBO, so we're changing subject here, guys. I'm sure we'll get back to the Ryan and the Haney fight as we go. But he's ranked number 1 by the WBO and WBC, but he may want to cover his ass in the IBF. If he can't fight with Murta Azalea, thanks for putting that like that so I can read it, for the IBF title fight to be the mandatory. Currently, he's ranked 4th. Was there another comment after that, mate? Did I miss something? All right. Well, he is number 1 with the WBO and WBC. However, there's been lots of happenings in the last few days. You would have seen that Jamal Charlo had initially enacted his champion in recess status and wanted the fight with Madrimov. Terence Crawford has now said he wants to fight Madrimov to the point where they're about to announce the fight for August 3rd in Los Angeles. But the Charlo thing come in was a bit of a spanner in the works. But there is reports that the WBA are going to rule in favour of the Crawford-Madrimov fight first, and also that Charlo has actually agreed to step aside initially for that fight. But there's been other reports that that he's going to enforce that champion in recess status and force the WBA to make Madrimov fight him. So there's all sorts of going, because then we've also got the Tszyu Spence Fundora situation. It's a mess at the moment, and look, it's anyone's guess at the moment, Kyle. I still think that Crawford will fight Madrimov. I would think that Charlo is not really going to be in a position to fight in the foreseeable future, so I would think it would be Crawford and Madrimov. I think the one thing, the tangible for me, is the Fundora, Tim, and Spence situation. And it sounds by that with the WBO, that would also be on the line with that WBA belt, by the way, which again confuses the issue. And I probably sound like I'm going around in circles here, but the one spanner in the works for me is that at the end of the year, if Fundora has the PBC guys in his ear about forgetting about Tim and fighting Spence instead, that really puts things a little bit awry. But like you said there, if you can maybe get in sweet with the IBF in there as well, then maybe he's a chance of winning that belt, and all of a sudden he's back in the mix with the belt, because they're all going to want to unify and fight each other. Maybe Charlo then wants to fight Tim for the IBF belt. It's just, look, I'm not going to speculate on it because there's so many things going around at the moment, Cole. The good thing about it is that we are talking about all these fighters fighting each other for different belts and all these different concoctions. I don't really care how it all works out. One, I want to see Tim Tszyu get a chance at one of these belts again. But 2, I want to see them all unify against each other. And if Charlo enters the mix, all of a sudden we've got a different dynamic. And what he has left, we'll have to see. But either way, I think it's going to be some interesting and exciting months ahead. Double G, Haney's jaw/cheek didn't look very good after the fight. Not as bad as Mendoza's, but pretty swollen nonetheless there. Well, he did take a few good shots, didn't he, Double G? And look, maybe they might use that as an excuse not to go to the press conference, but I still don't wear it, mate. I think it wasn't as bad, or not as bad, that he couldn't go to the press conference. But yeah, it did look a bit swollen afterwards, didn't it? Asbot agrees with Kyle. Somehow I think Tim will have to look to Murtazeliov at some point. Don't reckon Fundora will honour a rematch. Well, I've still got my doubts, Asbot. I'll be honest with you. As I just said, look, the thing that really puts a knot in my stomach is the fact that PBC are going to want Fundora to fight Spence. And normally what PBC want, they get. And that's the thing that worries me about the whole situation. Now, if Crawford and Madrimov are going to fight for the WBA and maybe the WBO, it only leaves the WBC and IBF. That means if Fundora fights Spence for the WBC, well, maybe it's time, and I'm sure they're already onto it. They'd be storyboarding this whole thing, Team Zoo, about the implications and the machinations of what's going to happen. So they might be just saying, geez, maybe we better give the IBF a call and maybe get in sweep with them just to cover our bases. But I'm sure all that's going on in the background. But as long as we get those fights, Asbot, I don't care what order they're in and what connotations they are, as long as we get all those guys fighting each other, and especially our man Tim Zoo gets a crack at least one of those belts anyway. So, Asbot also says, I think Ryan KO's Pitbull. He'll come forward and eat left hooks. Yeah, well, Pitbull, he doesn't know any other way than coming forward. He does have that real peekaboo type of style that can actually be a bit of a repellent to the left hook. The left hook only sort of lands sometimes with the chin slightly in the air, and Pitbull fights like this. So I think he might be okay, but Ryan's also got some good boxing skills as well, and I think he'd be pretty nimble on his feet. I think you would see him box Pitbull. Whether he can do it for 12 rounds is another case, isn't it? So, but again, we're still talking about these fights, which is the main thing. What about Garcia saying he wants to knock Fundora out? Well, I think that's just after the excitement of winning Double G. I don't think that's legitimately on the table at the moment. I think he's got to get past a few different fights first, but maybe Samson Lukovic is actually sitting back going, yeah, well, that's not a bad sort of fight. I doubt it. I doubt it, Double G. I think they'll be definitely looking at Crawford, Spence, Zoo, maybe Virgil Ortiz if he comes back, Charlo, of course. I just think there's too many big fights at 154 first, and I still think Garcia has to tick a few boxes at 147 before he moves up to 154. But again, some great fights there for him as well. There's Jules. Evening all. Devastated I missed Sunday's watch along. How many views did you get, Lynden? Well, I think I wasn't quite sure right at one stage on the telecast, Jules. I'm pretty sure it's pushing about 3,000 at the moment. Let me just have a quick look. I haven't looked at it for most of the day. Let's have a quick look at the views. We had, hang on, let's go to my channel. Sorry to, especially those listening online after the fact. All right, so we had 2.8, so 2,800 views, Jules. And we had, what we have with the review, I think we might have had a few hundred watch that as well. So it's good. No, it was really good to have it. I wasn't quite sure what sort of viewership we'd get, Jules, but really good that people tuned in. So, and we got a lot after. It's amazing what happened when probably round 11 started. It jumped from here to here. I think we might have had 80 or 90 sort of right the way through, but when it got to the last couple of rounds, it almost doubled. So it was really good for everyone. I think everyone was just intrigued to see what everyone else was thinking and doing. So I'm not quite sure if there was many other live streams out there, but I really enjoyed it. We'll be doing Wednesday nights as well if you want to join in. But it was just exciting, Jules. It was just really good to have a fight like that, calling it in real time and seeing all the comments come through. It was awesome. So let's hope we get more of it, especially Wednesday night. Kyle says, the good news is the IBF rankings 1 and 2 are vacant. I don't know how you have rankings vacant, Kyle. I don't understand that. But anyway, you must win a title eliminator in order to be placed in either spot. I get that, but I still don't understand it, and I don't agree with it. You got top 15 rankings or top 12 rankings, while you've got the top 12 fighters ranked from 1 to 12. You've got to qualify to win a ranking these days. I understand you have maybe 1 versus 2 fight to eliminate for the final shot at the champion. I get that, but to have rankings vacant, makes my head spin sometimes, these sanctioning bodies. Jules again, Ryan deliberately missing weight makes a farce of weight divisions. Well, maybe is this the way it's going, Jules? Weight divisions are just something that's just there as a guide. D-Style was upset on his channel about it. I haven't seen D-Style yet. I can just imagine. I'll watch that. ProBox TV guys were reporting that Devon was very, very, very drained at the weigh-in. But he's always very, very, very drained, Jules. So, and I watched the ProBox guys yesterday, and I love that channel, by the way. And I'm a big fan of them all. But, geez, I would have loved to have commented on there. Boys, pick your lips up off the ground, will you? Your boy lost. Ryan Garcia was the better fighter on the day. I mean, Paulo Malignaggi barely spoke. He was looking at the ground the whole way through. He was moping around. Tim Bradley looked like he was going to shed a tear or two. Teddy Atlas, well, I don't know what that guy talks about half the time, but even he was pissed. Chris Algieri is probably the only well-balanced one out of all of them, and apart from the host. But, yeah, the ProBox guys, come on. Just, come on. But, yeah, I do agree that he looked drained, but he's looked drained in every single weigh-in he's ever had, Jules, and he's won the previous 35 fights before that. So, but I could just imagine D-Style. I'll have to look at his YouTube video later and send him a message and see if he's okay. But, look, to answer your question there, the weight divisions, we see sports evolving all the time. Well, and look, it has been more and more in recent years. The catch weight fights have been more and more prevalent. I think you might see the real superstars of boxing. You say, you know what? I'm just going to fight that guy for this amount of money at that weight. And really, do fans really care whether there's a belt on the line? I know it looks good in the promos and they've got the belts on and they put it on the posters and all that sort of stuff. But do the real casuals out there and even the obviously the hardcore fans, do the hardcore fans really care there's a belt up? And do the casuals even know there's a belt up? That's probably what I'm getting at. So maybe we might get to the point where the real superstars of boxing say, you know what? We don't really need to fight for belts. They'll probably create their own belts. You know, I mean, this is the way we're going with it. Look, I am a traditionalist as far as I love the weight divisions. I love the belts. I hate the fact we've got interim belts and silver belts and all these other belts that we've got. I hate that. But I'm not against going down that track. One, if it makes the sanctioning bodies more accountable, makes them pull up their socks and legitimately try and better the sport and better the individual divisions and get better fights, might just put them on or get them on the toes a little bit to do that. And also maybe look at the sanctioning fees they're charging these top guys. I can't remember what it is, but for a massive fight, they might pay $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 per belt. So it might just be a way of making it more accountable, Jules. I'm all for it if we get the best fights available. You know, if we get, I don't know, pick a Canelo Benavidez or we get Crawford versus Zoo. I'm just sort of picking some fights here. If we get Lopez versus Garcia, if there's no belts on the line, I don't really care. As long as these guys fight, I could not give a toss. So maybe that $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 they save from sanctioning fees with the belts, maybe they split it and away we go. So I don't know. I just think times are changing, and that is a really good point that you made there. Maybe that's the way we're all going. Another one from Jules. Sorry if I'm falling behind here, guys. I'm doing my best. For those who haven't done a weight cut, can you describe the last couple of days of a fighter's life when making weight? That's a really good question there too, Jules. All right. Well, look, everyone's a little bit different, Jules, because everyone sits at different weights to boil down. So for me, for instance, I'm going to go in kilos here. I fought at 67 kilos. I would walk around at probably 73 kilos, maybe 74 if I was enjoying the chocolates a little bit too much. But let's say about 73. So I'm losing 6 kilos, which is about, about 13 pounds. But I always tried to do it right. Wasn't always the case, by the way, but do it right so that if I had plenty of time and I knew a tournament was coming up, I would try and get to about 70 kilos the week of the fight or the tournament, and then lose another kilo sort of during the week, just by training, cutting down the food and everything else. And it'll be the day before I would cut the last 2 kilos just by a little bit of sweat and the sauna just to finish off. And I would do that, no drama. Yeah, I'd be hungry. I'd definitely be thirsty. But by the time I weighed in the morning, this was not in the afternoon like the pros do, in the morning, I would rehydrate really quickly and easy and be really strong, ready to go. The difference with the amateurs, of course, is then you got to back up the next day or the next time you fight to make weight again. So you got to be conscious with that. More often than not, you would chuck the sweatsuit on and go and train afterwards, go for a jog, skip, whatever it might be, and you would make weight the next day. The pros are a little bit different. The real, I'll call it professional guys, Jules, do it the way I just said then. They have, or they tick certain check boxes along the way to make sure they make weight really easy. You would have seen someone like Devin Haney, especially, who does weight really hard. He would definitely need to stick to his little checklist to make sure he made weight. He'd have his own way of doing it. He might cut weight at the very last second. He might cut 6 kilos rather than me doing it over a few weeks. He might do it on the last day. So everyone's a little bit different. I don't like that. And some people rehydrate and replenish different to others. Some do it easily like I did. Others really battle, like we saw maybe a little bit with Devin Haney yesterday. But all I can say is I've seen videos of UFC fighters and some boxers the day before the weigh-in lying on the floor, and they've got body suits on, and they've got towels and all this sort of stuff. Almost look like they're half dead. And they've actually to the point got 5 or 6 people sitting around them to make sure they're actually not going to probably keel over on them. I don't know. Now that is one thing I don't agree with. But getting back to your question there, as I said, if you do it right, the last couple of days is fine if you know your system. And Ryan Garcia obviously didn't even worry about that, did he? But it is pretty hard, Jules. But it's a bit of a case, I think, too, an example of not being in a weight division that you just have to absolutely kill yourself to make. And especially these guys at that level, they should be worrying about game plan, the technique and strategy they've got in place, not worrying about just making weight. And it can actually weigh you down where all you're thinking about is weight. And you're forgetting of the job you got to do in the ring. And these guys at this level, you just can't afford to do that. So in this instance this week, you would have Devin Haney probably more focused on weight, and Ryan Garcia saying, oh, well, I'm not going to make anyway. I'm focused on the job at hand, and maybe that was a difference. But I hope that sheds a little bit of light there, Jules. I have heard of some fighters losing 8, 9, 10 kilos in the last couple of days, which I just think's absolutely ludicrous. And your body can't rehydrate healthily or properly in that space of time. You can't physically drain yourself of 8, 9, 10 kilos of fluid, because that's all it is, and then try and put it all on in the space of 24 hours. You just can't do it, not in a healthy way anyway. So the really professional guys these days are getting proper, they get the nutritionists and their own chefs and all that in, and they have it really well set down in stone. Tim Tszю's a classic example, has his own chef, and they do it properly. And there's probably no coincidence that those type of guys are, the best fighters in the sport. So everyone does it a bit differently, Jules, but I hope I shed a little bit of light on that there. There's Big J. See that Haney finally got exposed for the pillow-fisted chinny fighter that he always has been. Surprised that he didn't have a plan B. No need for a rematch. Yeah, well, we've all got our own ways of putting it there, Big J, and that's fine. Look, I did think, as far as the pillow fist go, I think that's probably one of the things he was exposed. The fact that he's not a big puncher, if you get a bigger guy in there with you, he probably can't do any damage against them. So maybe that did expose that. Is he chinny? Yesterday he was chinny, that's for sure, but he's not going to really come up against that many other guys that have got the size and strength and power that Ryan Garcia has, and just that really unpredictable hook that he throws. So yeah, you've shed your own light on it there, mate. But we've all got our own opinions on it. But the plan B, look, that's probably a really good point there, Big J. He didn't really seem to me had the ability to sort of change it up. But what was he going to change? That's probably the other thing I'll probably ask, because Ryan was very unpredictable. Ryan come out fast. Haney went into his normal routine of boxing from long range and trying to counter. But then, even after he hurt Haney in the first round, Ryan Garcia stepped back and allowed Haney to come to him. So I just don't think Devin really knew. Well, I think he knew, but he wasn't really comfortable. He was coming forward in 1 second, and then 10 seconds later, he was on the retreat. I think it was just a brilliant game plan by Ryan Garcia to keep Devin Haney guessing. I don't know whether it was deliberate or not, but that's what it seemed to me anyway. And I just don't think a plan B, even if he had one, Big J, was going to work, because Ryan Garcia didn't fight the same style through the fight. He was changing all the time as well. So let's see if we see it in the rematch. All right, Jack, it's a fairly cool story in Lynden's 1996 opening ceremony to do with the weight cut, Jules. That was the Olympics. Yeah, well, I went to the opening ceremony in that, guys, and probably wasn't the smartest idea, but I did it anyway. I had to weigh in first thing in the morning, and we were one of the first countries out, being Australia, and it was about 40 degrees at night, and of course I'm dehydrated as it was. Made weight pretty easy, by the way, with the heat. It was great doing the lap of honour, but then I had to sit in the middle of the oval for about 3.5 hours, which wasn't great. But yeah, I didn't make the weight, but probably didn't do myself any favours, Jack. But wouldn't have made any difference in the result. I was beaten by a very good fighter from Kazakhstan. But yeah, I mean, everyone does it differently. It didn't really affect me that much, but I can see how it would affect some of the fighters out there. Larry, I think Pitbull Cruz destroys both these sea-level fighters. Wow. Okay, Larry, that is a bold statement. You think they're both sea-level fighters? Jeez. You actually thought Devin Haney was a sea-level fighter before this fight, Larry? I'd be interested to hear. Because he was, a lot of people thought, in the top 10 pound for pound. Yeah, look, it's not a bad call there, Larry. I wouldn't call them sea-level fighters, but I think Ryan made Devin look anything but an A-grade fighter. And the way Haney fought made Ryan look like an A-grade fighter. So it's interesting to see how you judge it. I know we're all on sort of different wavelengths here, but I think you've been a little bit harsh there, Larry, calling them sea-level fighters. But hey, it's your opinion. Another one from Larry. What I saw was some of the lowest level of fighting I've seen in a title fight. Well, asterisks on the title fight there, Larry, but I know what you're saying there. My cousin, who I watched it with, agrees. Loma already beat Haney. This was very low technical level. Look, it wasn't the most technical fight, Larry. I'll agree with that. I don't think Ryan did anything that we haven't seen before. He just fought. He just had a really, really good game plan. Devin, as I said, I think was just thrown by the unpredictability of the way Ryan was fighting. So, look, we're all going to see it through different eyes. Technique-wise, you're probably right there. It wasn't the most technical fight, but I just think as far as entertainment and drama goes, it's probably one of the best fights I've seen in a long time. Definitely not one to ask about weight cuts. He did it hard. Look, I did it sort of hard. Yeah, look, but as I said, I rehydrated really quick and easy, and when I got in there, I was one of those ones that could get in there and not be affected by it. But there was a few instances where I did do it hard, but it was my own fault. But when I did it properly, that's the way I did it, as I said before. All right. Don't like how Garcia calls himself the king. Has not even held a belt. What's he going to do? Purposely missed weight of beat-up champions for no belt. That's a chump move similar to McAllister. Look, I think the king thing, yeah. Look, he's obviously just been called that from a young age, Big J. I don't think I would read too much into it as far as having the belt goes, but it is interesting. He's one of the biggest stars in boxing, and he's never won a world title. He's never fought for a world title, let alone won a world title. So that is a good point there. And the weight thing we've discussed depends on what side of the fence you're on, as far as you reckon it was a good move, or, as you said there, a chump move. What's that there from Tara? A photo of me and Hussein sitting in sweatsuits in a bathroom with a hot shower running, trying to sweat the last few out there somewhere. Yeah, everyone has their own way of doing it. And even though we were sweating, and Hussey was another one that probably did it the same as me with the same sort of weight, even though you might do those extremes at the last minute, when you might only be losing 2 or 3 kilos, when these guys are losing 7, 8, 9 kilos in one sitting or one session, way too much. You can't possibly replenish and rehydrate and recover enough to be in a good condition to get in the ring. And I don't know what health implications it has down the track with the kidneys and all the rest of it. But in my instance, just getting back to me, like as I said, I might lose 2 or 3 in the last couple of days and sit in a sauna and have a sweatsuit on, but I'm not doing it and really hurting myself. It's all just fluid, and we're only talking 2 or 3 litres of water. These guys are losing 8, 9, 10 litres of water or fluid. It just cannot be good for you. And eventually it catches up. Speaking of the chump, spoke to him today. All right, and he was coming on to comment the show today. We should have the link up, FaceTime, face-off. face-off, but he hasn't got the gumption. Well, we'll see. Let's see if he's watching now. Jai, if you want to call out a Big J, in Perth in a few weeks' time, let's do it. Highlander, could you see Garcia going up to 154? Definitely in the future, Trevor. Yep, I think 100% we could see Ryan Garcia move to 154. I would think, though, he would spend the next probably 12 to 18 months or even 2 years at welterweight. Remember, he's only 25 years of age, so plenty of time to move up. Maybe he might want to go up and fight a Boots Ennis, or that would be a dangerous fight for him, in my opinion. Again, styles make fights, and I think Boots Ennis is a bigger, badder version of a Devin Haney. But yeah, no, definitely. If there's some big fights there, and looks like there is, depending what happens, then maybe we might get to see Ryan Garcia down the track at 154. But he has got the frame to carry the weight very, very well. So, it's not like you couldn't see Tank Davis going to 154 because, of course, he'd look literally like a little tank. But Ryan Garcia, he's tall, he's got that body frame. I think he would carry that weight really, really well and do quite well at 154. What's that? Big J. The Garcia-Haney fight kills off the George Lama fight now for the buzz. Well, not for us Aussies, Big J. I'm still looking forward to it. It may on the world scene, who knows? But look, I think what will happen for this, Big J, for the next few days, this is all we're going to be talking about. The dust will settle by this weekend, and then we'll have, 2 weeks to really get stuck into George and Lama. I've got no doubt by the time fight day comes around, or fight week, the whole of Australia boxing will be buzzing for sure with that fight. Big J, told you Crawford versus Madrimov was happening. Your old mate Big J knows. Yes, you did say that, Big J. Look, I'm all for that fight. The fact that Madrimov's had 10 fights is a little bit of a concern to me. He's a very, very good fighter, but he's only had 10 fights. Crawford's had 40 fights, and it's just been the best for a long time, or amongst the best for a long time. I'm not quite sure Madrimov, as good as he looked in his last fight, the guy I fought isn't Terence Crawford. I would expect Terence Crawford to win that quite comfortably. I would have probably preferred Crawford to fight maybe, was it Burke? What's his name? Let me know in the comments. All these Russian names. I get, starts with B anyway. The one that beat Mendoza on the Tim Tszyu Fundora card. What's his bloody name? Burke. Let us know there, guys. I'm sure you're all out there saying it's this guy. All right. Kyle again. Spencer's ranked number 2 in the WBC. Bloke is a parasite. Well, I don't like the fact that he got absolutely owned in his last fight, Kyle, by Terence Crawford. Hasn't fought since. Doesn't look like being in any shape to fight. And he suddenly popped up at number 2 with the WBC. It shows that not only is he a parasite, in your words there, if that's what you want to call him, the WBC are parasites, Kyle, for just slipping him in there. I don't like it. Does Spence actually have any dignity? Well, that's arguable, Glenn. I don't know. I would think if he had some dignity, not that there is much in boxing these days when it comes to the big money fights. If he had dignity, he would allow Tim Tszyu to fight Fundora, wouldn't he? But again, dignity and pride, or whatever you might want to call it, goes out the window when there's some big money at stake. So, Jules, Madrimov is no walkover. Yeah, look, I agree he's not going to be a walkover, Jules. But again, the 10-fight factor really worries me. I just think Terence Crawford, I think he's custom made for Terence as well. You know, that Russian type of style. That Russian style can be like a bulldozer when they fight certain fights. But Terence Crawford has every dimension known to man. He's got 4, 5, 6 different dimensions that he can go to. And that's why I think he handles Madrimov. I won't say easy, but I think he wins a pretty decisive decision in my mind, Jules. Yes, it'll be a tough fight. Madrimov will come to fight, but Terence Crawford is another beast entirely to anything we've seen Madrimov fight so far. So, but yes, Glenn, he is very good. I'm not saying he's not, but Terence Crawford is exceptional. All right, let's go to Big J again. Did you see the Shannon O'Connell returns in a club fight May 11th in Brisbane? Yeah, I did hear that, Big J. I haven't. What date is it? May the 11th, is it? Just I better give her a call and ask her about that. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Let's have a quick look at that card just quickly while we're going. It'll probably be. Oh no, there it is. There. All right. So, So it's a Greek club in Brisbane. Who's actually doing that fight? Let's have a look. Promoter. Tavita Pengai Jr., so TPJ Promotions. And it looks like he's in one of the fights on the card. So good on you, Tavita. He's fighting Semi Dalolama, if that's how it is. But yeah, so Desley Robinson's back. Good to see her back against Trish Abaka, judging by the records there. She's got 1-7-1. You would expect Desley to win that fight quite comfortably. And there's Shannon O'Connell. She's fighting Seraphon Shanbuola, if that's how you pronounce it. Now, I know that name from somewhere. Let's have a quick look at her. Don't judge these records here, by the way, too, guys. It's purely a comeback, tune-up fight for Shannon. So before you get into the box rec thing here, just give her a little bit of latitude. She hasn't been able to get a fight from what I've heard. She was supposed to fight Beck Hawker, apparently, and, of course, Beck Hawker's had to retire. So I'll just get your comment off the screen there, Big J. So she's had a few wins there. She's been to Australia, so she's been stopped a couple of times. But look, I got no dramas with that. She's just coming back. So yeah, no issue with just. Oh, there it is. I knew. I promoted her back in 2018. She fought Mousy Jacobs in Bendigo. That was on the Tim Tszyu card, and Andrew Maloney both fought on that card. So who would have thought in this day and age to have Tim Tszyu and Andrew Maloney on the same card back then? But yeah, I knew the name, and yeah, Mousy Jacobs fought her on my card back in 2018. So there you go. I think that's the card. I better just quickly check. There it is there. Yep, it was. So there was the card there. Anyway, I digress. I will go back. So anyway, so look, yeah, I think Shannon should win that quite comfortably. But again, it's just a comeback fight. So let's not all get defrosted over the fact that she's chosen her. All right, we'll keep moving on there. O'Connell, opponent from Thailand, being KO'd by Shanika. I don't think she'd been KO'd, had she? Lauren Eagle and DD Hobbs. So it should be an easy comeback for Shannon. You know, as I said, Big J, I think if you asked Shannon, she would have very reluctantly taken this fight. Reluctantly. Shannon likes to fight the best, as she's proven. Obviously, she has fought Shanika and Ebony and what's her name? Taylor Robinson. So she's fought all those girls and all obviously fights all over the planet. So yeah, as I said, I think she will reluctantly taken the fight, but I think No Limit to say, hey, look, we'll get you back in. First fight back from the shoulder injury. Let's just get you, or the surgery, the replacement. Let's get her in there and get a win under her belt, and then maybe look at some big fights after that for her. So yeah, you're right. She shouldn't have much problems or many problems beating her, but let's just get her back in the ring and get her back amongst it. G'day, Sam. G'day to you, mate. What question have you got there? Big congrats to Joel, Breezy, and the team at Shadows Gym. Another good win. Yeah, mate, I was really impressed with Joel Taylor last week. I thought the best I've ever seen him fight. Joel Taylor, I thought he did a really, really good job. Wasn't an easy fight, but he did everything that he had to do and box smart, and he got a very comprehensive win, did Joel Taylor. And I did comment during the live that old Shadow down there is a character. And I see he hasn't changed barbers in the last probably 20 or 30 years, but it looks like he's still got a little bit of the mullet there. But really, really good guy. Great people from that gym as well. I remember them coming to our shows. They always bought tables and, spent money, and just a really, really good mob. So, yeah, I'm with you, Sam. Big congrats to those guys. Who's Breezy? Let me know on that. I'm not quite familiar who that might be. It's obviously a nickname, but for Joel Taylor, yeah, a great win. Carl, g'day, mate. Ryan flipped the boxing world on its head. Certainly did, mate. Did not see that fight playing out like that. Wow. Yeah, well, I think we're all good in hindsight there, Carl. I must admit, I envisaged Ryan doing very, very well, especially early, but I didn't picture him winning the fight, if I'm being honest, Carl. A lot of it played out the way I thought it might, but I never thought that Ryan would have enough to actually pull off the win. I thought that Devin Haney, no matter what Ryan threw at him, would have enough to win the fight, and we're all wrong, weren't we? Bill, I agree. Haney should front the post-fight press conference. Us viewers love fighters' post-fight comments as much as we love the fight, and it's us that tune in that pay them millions of dollars. They tend to forget that sometimes, Bill. A lot of these fighters tend to forget. They all get all bloody butthurt and chuck a little wobbly, and I don't know the exact circumstances in here, so I'm not going to chuck Haney in there like some of the others. But the fact of the matter, he didn't turn up. Didn't look like there was anything wrong with him after the fight, so it's pretty disappointing in that respect. But not just the fighters, Bill. It's also the promoters and organisers of these events. Classic example, a few weeks back in Las Vegas. few hundred people from Australia had made the trip over to Las Vegas to see Tim Tszyu fight, and some for Michael Zarafa as well. And they couldn't get into the weigh-in. So they allowed it just for media only. And you got 200 or 300 people out there trying to get in the weigh-in told to go away. They've just lost complete touch, or the complete touch with the reality, or complete touch with the supporters out there, or the fans that buy the fights and travel all the way over there. I can just imagine if it was, say, a Ricky Hatton fight or an Englishman, someone else over there, and they get thousands of Brits that go over. I can just see what would have happened then. They probably would have stormed the place. So I know that the Tim and Fundora fight wasn't on the scale of a Pacquiao or Mayweather or Canelo. I understand that, but still, they would have known there would have been lots of people from all over the world coming to the weigh, not just Australia. There would have been Mexicans there for Pitbull. Not so sure about the Cubans and that for Lara, but there would have been lots of supporters there to support their fighters and just to lock them out. And apparently there's a lot of room left in that little place where they had it there, or big place they had it, the press room. They've just lost touch with the people that pay for these events, Bill, and I was pissed. I wasn't there. I was in Arizona with Liam at the time at his fight. But when I was told that, a couple of people messaged me, told me they couldn't get in. I think that's just disgusting, and the organisers should hang their heads in shame over that. Ryan, don't pay sanctioning fees ever. Maybe get rid of those sanctioning bodies. Just sell yourself. As I said before, Carl, who knows going forward, the really smart operators that can get away without fighting for belts might just say, you know what, I'm not going to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for a title. I'm going to put that in my own pocket. We might be seeing a changing of the guard. Yeah, and Devon tripped on his lip after the fight. Yeah, well, that's for sure, Carl. Now, look, it's, as I said, I understand they get disappointed. A lot of them are shattered. This is a life, but let's not forget they get paid millions and millions of dollars to do this. So I haven't got a lot of sympathy for them, by the way. I like the ones that just take it on the chin, excuse the pun, and then just go on and say, well, I mean, look at Tim. It would have been hugely disappointing for Tim. He would have been absolutely shattered. He's gone to Las Vegas for the biggest fight of his career. Lots of Australians over there. The eyes of Australia and the world are on him over there, and he didn't get the win. He would have been shattered, but you know what? He got himself quickly patched up, and he got out there and he conducted himself so professionally at the post-fight press conference. That is the way you do it. And Devon Haney, if that is the case where he was just having a bit of a pout out the back, yeah, not good enough. Asbot, any thoughts on why Ryan kept going from the shoulder roll, turning his back on Haney? Odd strategy. Well, it was really odd, Asbot. Look, and that was probably one area where Ryan actually got away with it with the referee, because really he turned his back on Haney. No, it wasn't. I was trying to work out what it was. I don't know whether it was supposed to be a Philly shell or the Mayweather shoulder roll or whatever the hell you want to call it. I'm not quite sure what he was trying to do. He wasn't doing it very well, but what he was doing, rather than doing sort of this like the Mayweathers of the world do, he was just literally turning his back. And I was going to say Mayweather there. Haney was like, okay, well, am I going to hit him? He did a few times, and I think he might have even got warned for it once or twice. But I think in that instance, we talk about the referee maybe being against Ryan Garcia. I thought he had every right to actually pull Ryan up continually and warn him for turning his back. I know he might have got one or two warnings here or there, but he did it right throughout the fight. So, again, I don't know whether it was a strategy. It is the ultimate shoulder roll, though. It's almost the back roll, isn't it? Where he just turns his back and maybe hopes Haney gets warned for hitting him, or who knows. But in that instance there, he definitely should have been pulled up a few more times for actually literally turning his back on Haney. All right, Big J. Besides Tank, Haney and Campbell, Garcia's resume is full of chumps. Give the guy a little bit of credit, Big J. I think you need to go have a Snickers or something, mate. I mean, geez, he's just beaten one of the top 5 or 6 pound for pound fighters in the sport. I do get it. The biggest fight he had was obviously Tank Davis, and he was beaten comprehensively in that. And Luke Campbell, I know he's an Olympic gold medalist, but hadn't really done, a lot in the pros. But look, you got to fight these guys eventually. You can't have the whole career fighting these A graders. He's finally got his big win, so give him a little bit of credit, Big J. Go and have a lie down. I think you've been a bit grumpy today, I think. Can you get that? Oh, sorry, I'm going along there, Carl. I can't believe Devon got the stuffing beaten out of him. Well, I don't think even Devon could believe that, Carl. And I do love a chat there. I do. Well, this is what we're here for, isn't it? It's talking boxing. So I might be a little bit behind, but I promise I'll catch up. All right. Carl again. Hang on. We're back to Big J. What's that? Please give you having the love tappies on the tangent again. Yeah. Don't even bring up the luggage situation here tonight, guys. We've got too much to talk about. All right, Carl. Yeah, got to agree with Larry, but damn, that chin of Devon's is sus. Well, I think the proof will be in the pudding, Carl, in his next fight if he gets chinned, whether he can withstand it. Whether it was the weight cut. Look, I think Devon Haney should go to 147. I think there's that the argument of, do you drain down and be able to fight smaller guys but weaken yourself and hinder your preparation and be susceptible to being chinned at that weight because you're obviously a lot weaker? Or do you go up that extra division where you're nice and big and strong, take a leaf out of the Ryan Garcia book and come into the fight strong so that in the late rounds you're going to have the ability to dig deep, you're going to be physically and mentally, whatever you want to call it, still intact late in the fight and not having to dig deeper than what you might necessarily want to do. So, yeah, as I said, Carl, I agree. We'll see what his next fight's like, but I would like to see him go to a 147. And even here in Australia, see recently Brock Jarvis, I really welcome him going from, 118, 122. I think he jumped from 122 to 130 and then jumped to 140. Now he's jumping to 154. And I don't blame him. He was chinny at that weight because no doubt he really struggled. Now to see him big, strong, ready to go, I can't wait to see him fight Nikita Tszyu, hopefully next after this week's fights. He might have a tune-up maybe, I think it was going to be in June, so they'll probably fight later in the year. But I'm really interested to see how a big, strong, fit, healthy Brock Jarvis goes against these type of fighters. I think he'll go quite well. Yeah, not a bad point there, Carl. Ryan created his own division. It's the Bridger welterweight 144. Well, maybe we'll get a few more of these weight divisions in. And when you think about it, the sanctioning bodies will be rubbing their hands together because it's more sanctioning bodies for them. Another champion, another silver champion, another interim champion, another regional champion. Jeez. I think we're the chumps, aren't we? Because these guys are just getting richer and richer. All right, Jules. Exactly how far behind am I, guys? I'm not too far. All right, just on Devon, thought he looked really big and strong against Prograis. He bashed him up. Was Garcia just that much bigger and stronger than Regis, or was Devon missing something? Bit of both, I think, Jules. I think Garcia was definitely a lot bigger and stronger than what Regis was. And Devon certainly didn't look as healthy this time around as he did against Prograis. But opposition can do that too. And I think, again, looking at those pictures from Garcia's fight with Davis compared to this one, how thicker he looked in the chest, like fuller in the face. So, again, as I said, is that an example to these fighters these days? Forget about killing yourself to make the weight and maybe reducing your capabilities by 25%, maybe more, than being strong, healthy, and fit and going at a weight that is more natural to you. So instead of losing 7, 8, 9 kilos, you're only losing 4 or 5. Maybe you might have set a precedence here, Ryan. I'll tell you something, that Arnold Barbosa Jr. fight was given, or he was given a gift. Yeah, that was crazy, Carl. I can't believe that McComb lost that fight or was taken from him. I thought he won convincingly. To think that one of the judges, I think, had Barbosa, was at 8 rounds to 2. Talk about judges that should be given a spell. That judge is one of them. So, Carl says, I don't think anyone has an idea on what the hell happened yesterday. Yeah, I think we're all still taking it all in. Jules says, I'm all shook up. Haney was in my pound for pound, still is. I don't think you can have him in there now, Jules. I think you've got to have it on the merits, these fighters on their merits. I don't think you can have Haney in there after losing to Ryan Garcia, but everyone has their own way of working out their top 10 pound for pound. But I, for one, I would have had Haney definitely in there before yesterday, but I think he would have to slip out now in favour of someone else. So, Big J, Garcia can do a Danny Green, spend his entire first run as the IBO 200-pound champ, doing 180 to 185-pound catchweight fights. Well, again, this is the times we're living in, Big J. The champions and the good fighters can do what they want. Carl says, I thought Devon would win like a 10-2, 9-3. Did not see him getting bullied and beaten from pillar to post. Yeah. I would have thought maybe 8 rounds to 4, maybe, Carl. Maybe 9-3. But I'm with you. I definitely didn't see him getting beaten up and bullied like he did. He was just pounded from post to post, although he did win a lot of the early rounds. So let's not forget that he did quite well early, and then those knockdowns obviously were the difference in the end, but he got beaten up. All right, Jules, are you prepared? Oh, that's right, he's coming. All right, Jules asks, are you prepared for Peach's Thongs on Wednesday? Very excited to see Tapia back in action. Really think he's a hidden gem of Aussie boxing. I'm with you there on the ladder, Jules. I can't wait to see Tapia back in action. I know Mike Altamura will probably be up there in the corner of Tapia. He's a big rap for him, so let's hope he gets a good win. Up against a pretty good fighter. Who's he fighting? Hang on, we'll go back. He's fighting Kiba Gonzalez, who's 20-0 for the WBO global middleweight title. Now, I don't know what the hell a global title is in comparison to a world title, but hey, when you're probably getting a couple of grand in sanctioning fees, who cares, I suppose. And for the Peach, or the Thongs of Peach, Jules, I'm going to take a deep breath when I see that. If you're not quite sure what Jules is saying there, the trainer from New Zealand, Peach Boxing, I'm not sure what his actual name is, comes to a professional boxing event, nationally televised pay-per-view, and wears thongs. So I think we have to have standards in this industry, Jules. And don't get me started on this one. But how hard is it to put a bloody pair of runners on? Anyway. All right, James Brown. I guess I have to eat my words, but no apologies for Garcia. It's a bad look for young kids that are getting into the sport. Yeah, look, I will agree with that, James. I will stand by my opinion earlier when I said he's quite, or arguably, the face of boxing. I know Canelo is probably the face, but Garcia would be right in the mix of the top 2 or 3 in my opinion. But I do agree that it's a bad look for the way he did carry on, whether he was joking or meant it or whatever it was in the lead up to the fight. And I know it was a bit of a joke with the beer on the scales, but I think we have to all agree that it was probably not the smartest thing to do. I think, look, I don't know. The one thing, look, I'm not a religious guy. That's what I will say. I'm not religious at all. But I will say I was perplexed by both fighters. You have Devin Haney, who's a devout Muslim. You've got Ryan Garcia, who's a devout Christian. I thought they were actually quite respectful of each other's faith, by the way, which was good, because that could have gotten really ugly, considering how ugly it already was. If we had got religion involved, who knows what would have happened. But as I said, Haney, the devout Muslim, Garcia, the devout Christian, going on about all their values and what they believe in and everything else. And then the stuff that came out of their mouth, both of them, I know Garcia was probably the main culprit, but some of the language and stuff coming out of both their mouths, I'm just not sure how that all measures up with them being so righteous as religious representatives, I suppose. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong. Again, I'm not religious, so I wouldn't have a clue, but that's one thing that did really perplex me, that one instance you're saying that you're a man of God or Allah or whatever it is they're all supporting or believing in, and then on the other hand, some of the things that were coming out of the mouths, it didn't seem to marry up with that. But again, I'm not into that scene. Let me know if I'm maybe overreacting, but I will say, James, that I think both guys in some respects, more so probably Ryan, but also Devin, some of the things he was doing and saying. I mean, even shoving Garcia like he did pretty violently. He did the same thing to Lomachenko last year. I don't see that as a very good role model for young fighters coming up either. No doubt at some stage we'll see that in the amateurs or whatever it might be, bit of a shove at the decision or whatever it might be. So I think both of them have a little bit to answer for. And I think both of these guys should be doing better than what they are and did in the lead up to this fight. All right, Big J. Bit off topic. All right, a former soldier of 10 years service. I encourage everyone to attend the dawn service on Thursday, so take it easy Wednesday to pay your respects for all service members past and present. Amen, Big J. Although I just contradicted myself saying I'm not a religious person, but I'll say amen in that sense. I'm with you, mate. I'll be up at dawn on Thursday morning. I do it every year with Tara, my wife, and our 2 boys. And even though I hate getting up that early, it's a small sacrifice to make for what obviously our servicemen from years gone past had to go through. And I actually really find it quite moving to go to the dawn service and just I know it's sometimes a bit of a solemn affair. I know it's gotten more and more popular these days, if that's what you want to call it, popular. But it's been great, I think. And Big J, I'm not sure what you think of a soldier of 10-year service, that so many more and more young people are going to these services. And to the point, I think in Gallipoli, I think you have to book, so they've got room to get people in there. So that is one good thing, and it just shows. I'm not quite sure a lot of them know exactly what they're actually going for, but I try and we try and educate our boys that this is what we're getting up and going for, and just give them a little bit of a input in or some info on what they're actually watching. And I do it every year. They always play it on radio, Big J. I was only 19, and I got no qualms to say I tear up every time it comes on. I really do. When I hear it, especially at that time of the year, when they play that song, I'm not embarrassed to say that I do get a bit teary. So yep. If you can get there, make sure you get there Thursday morning. Obviously here in Australia. All right, James. Now I've got to go through even quicker, Big J, because you got me going there. You came, call it on a bankroll. That's what is it? You came, call it a bankroll. That's what Fury has. Okay, I'm not quite sure what that is there, James, but fill me in down the track. I do it every year, Big J. That's the dawn service. I run the two at the local RSL. Now I've got a question, Carl. Now gambling is legal all over the country in casinos and whatever and other certain places. Why is 2-up only allowed to be played on Anzac Day? I don't get it. How is it any different to rolling the dice or spinning the wheel and all that sort of stuff at the casinos? I don't understand it, but let us know if you can fill us in there, mate. All right, Jules, you're with me. Love a tangent. Happy to hear about banning wheels and carry on anytime. I'm going to move on before I get started there, mate. Who's that? Grant Tassie Brown. Tassie will be back soon. There he is, Mr. Tassie. Tassie Boxing, that is. So how are you, Tassie? Good to see you've made the show there, mate. And hope you're well too, mate. I'll have to give you a call before. I think you're going away pretty soon, aren't you? So I'll give you a call. Carl, Brock and Nikita will be a good fight. I agree there, Carl. I think it'll be an awesome fight. I think Haney gets murdered at 147, but still one of the nicest, well-mannered blokes I've ever met. Always a fan. Bill Haney too. Gave me an interview when he didn't have to. Both awesome blokes, yeah. Well, from what I've heard, and one of them was by Tassie Brown, Big J, is that when they were here, you wouldn't have got nicer guys. I think to the point, I'm pretty sure that Bill Haney actually, when Tassie was in America, invited him to his house. So, I mean, he gets a good rap, but it doesn't change the fact that not just Bill, a lot of people involved in the lead up to it. I didn't like even Ryan Garcia's dad after the fight, by the way he carried on, although he had every right to with the excitement. But I just don't like the way a lot of them inject themselves into it when they just don't need to. And I know the biggest one in recent years has been John Fury, but I think, I'm hoping at some stage Tyson's had a bit of a word to him. He seems to have mellowed just a little bit. We'll see what he's like with the Usyk fight, but I just don't see why they've got to inject themselves into it, Big J. Just step aside and let your son do what they're being paid to do. Does he get murdered at 147? Well, he's probably not the biggest 147, is he, Big J? But I suppose we'll see. Kyle, Shannon's fighting featherweight. Yep, she's after Sky for sure, but with Serrano jumping up 3 weight levels to fight Taylor, there could be a unification fight between Nina, Menke, and Sky for vacant belt. I don't think, two-part to that statement there, Kyle. One, I don't think Shannon's fighting at featherweight because she's going to be campaigning there. I know she still makes bantamweight okay. I think this is being a comeback fight, and this girl's probably not going to give you too many troubles. I could probably see her just probably more worrying about getting herself right technically rather than her weight. So I reckon this is just a comeback fight at featherweight. I think you'll see her drop down to either 122 or even 118. But on the second point there, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Sky Nicholson said, well, okay, come up and have a crack at me from the WBC belt. Shannon will be there in 2 seconds. We know they've got beef between each other. And now that Serrano's, of course, fighting Katie Taylor for the second time, which I think is awesome. And it has given a little bit of credibility to the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson show, we'll say. That's the main support on that show in Dallas. But I don't think we'll probably see Serrano and Sky, to be honest with you, Cole. Look, Serrano's getting towards the end of her career. I think if she loses to Katie Taylor, maybe that might be the end, although she does love to fight. there has been rumours she might even go to UFC, so we'll see. But for Shannon, definitely a comeback fight at featherweight, and we'll see whether that Sky Nicholson fight happens. What's that? About the weather. Lucky bastard. Better freezing your pulse off in Victoria. Well, it's not too bad down here at the moment, Big J. It's, I think, what was it? You live down here, don't you? What is it today? Let's have a quick look. There you go. It was where I live. It's normally freezing cold this time. It was 21. In Melbourne, it was 24. So there you go. And up further in the state was 25 or 26. So, although having said that, I better look at what it's going to be going forward because it probably won't be great. Nope. It's dropping down into the 12s and 13s next week. So anyway, that's Victoria for you. I'll keep going. Big J. The global belt is a step down from a world title in the WBO, so top 5 belt. A step down from the world title. So what makes it global? Is that different to an international belt, which is then a world belt? I don't know. I know it's just another title for another reason for a sanctioning fee. Big J, I get what you're saying there, but it still doesn't make any sense how you can have a global belt and a world belt. Anyway, all right, we'll keep moving through there. Big J, my kids want to go every year. Don't even have to ask them. A dawn service, that is, yeah. Yep, well, you've raised them very well there, Big J. And we always treat them to a Macca's afterwards, after the service as well, which always goes down pretty well. The Anzacs have the rights to the game, mate. Which one was that? Have I missed a comment there? Of course, here in, I'm not sure with the rugby league guys, but here in Victoria, it's Collingwood and Essendon every year. I love it. Actually, Anzac Eve, they have Melbourne and Richmond. It's an annual game now. They'll probably get 85, 90,000 to that. And then the MCG game the following day, Collingwood and Essendon. I think it's been going for this is actually 30 years, I think it's been going now. And they'll get 100,000 people there. It's always a sellout, and they do it so well. The service they do before the game and the ceremonies on the field before the players run out. I've been there once, and it's just it's an eerie feeling to hear 100,000 people dead silent. I'm not sure again what happens with the rugby league, but it's probably one of the biggest events here in Victoria is the Collingwood Essendon Anzac Day game, and they're always good games. They always go each way, but yeah, they could probably sell another 50,000 tickets to it. It sells out every year, so it's a great day. And even though I hate Collingwood and Essendon with a passion, on the couch watching that game, it's always just a great event. All right, back to the boxing. Interesting to read that Jamel Charlo, I saw that. Yep, invoked his right as a champion in recess. Yep, we've covered that earlier. Aximan might throw a spanner in the works for Madrimov versus Bud fight. Yeah, well, WBA's still got to put a ruling on that, Aximan. I've seen contrasting stories. One have said that WBA and Charlo have agreed to the Madrimov Bud fight. And then I've seen other articles that have said that WBA haven't made up their mind yet, and Charlo still wants that fight with Madrimov. So I'm sure that'll play out in the next couple of weeks. 2-up is illegal because the house can't win. Well, yes. Good point. Although poker is played, so Texas Hold'em, whatever's played at casinos, and the house, unless they get a draw out of each one, they get a commission per hand. I'm not sure why that would be any different, but yeah, okay. Well, thanks for shedding light on that there, mate. Big J, Tassie Brown need a trainer to prepare for the chump McAllister. Well, look no further than Tassie Brown. I'm sure he'll help you out. Charlo's looking for a payoff. He doesn't want to fight Madrimov. Yeah, well, he's probably still looking. Look, Cole, unless he wanted to fight Madrimov just to get the belt, and then he would allow Crawford to go up and challenge him, and that's where the money is. Who knows? So we'll see. And what have we got there? All right. They used to have it in the casinos here. It's just 2-up, but it got classed as unregulated gambling, meaning the government missed out on the cut. Yeah, I get that. But as I said, Carl, they have Texas Hold'em all year round. And it's players versus players. And I know they get a small cut. The house gets a small cut. Or do they? No, they don't, do they? I think they rely on the tips. That's right. Most players that win a hand of Texas Hold'em will tip the dealer. So they're not really getting anything either. So, look, I don't know. But thanks again for shedding some light there. Jules. Big J, surely Lynden can make a few calls and get you some good work with the Maloney's to prep. I'm sure they will, mate. Although you're based down here, I can probably give you a few good trainers down here, Big J, if you're prepared to put in the work. Yep. Okay, so that's more about the 2-up. Bugger off, it's freezing, says Big J. Mate, 24 degrees today. How can you be freezing? Even at the moment, what is it? It's up past 8 at night. And I live in probably the coldest part of Victoria, and it's 13 degrees. In Melbourne, it's 17. It's a heat wave. All right, we'll keep going, or else I'll have Tara banging on the door. All right. You can't call it a back roll. Fury owns that. Stupid spell check. The back roll. Oh, that's what you're trying to say. Sorry, James. Okay. Yep, can't call it a back roll. Yeah, he does do that, doesn't he? But as I said, very, very lucky not to have the referee pull him up on it. Carl says, I don't care what anyone says. Liam Paro is a live dog in his fight against Mateus. I'm with you there, Carl. I 100% agree that Liam Paro is in that fight. I know the experts overseas won't give Liam a chance at all. Just like, it reminds me a little bit, or to some extent, to the George Kambosos and Teofimo Lopez fight. Mateus, I don't think, is obviously not as well known as what Lopez was, but George Kambosos, no one knew a thing about him. Not a thing, and no one rated him. No one gave him any airtime. Us here in Australia, we all knew he was a chance. Some sort of chance, but went over there and just took everyone by storm. And I've got a feeling that Liam Paro is going to be in a similar boat. Now, make no mistake, Mateus can fight, is a very, very good, tough, strong, hard fighter, and it's in Puerto Rico. But I've got no doubt that even though it's stacked against him, Liam Paro will put in a very, very good fight. Carl, the reason why Paro got this fight is because nobody wants it. Everybody's petrified of Mateus. If Paro, I hope I'm saying that right. If Paro wins, he's slayed a giant. I don't agree with that, Kyle. As I said earlier, yeah, I don't think everyone's petrified of Mateus. I think it was just Eddie Hearn trying to get him the best fight, and there's not really that many other, I think, suitable opponents out there at this stage at the level to compete for a world title. At that level, you don't necessarily get people that are petrified of each other, as you say there. So I think he got it because Eddie Hearn, I think, saw Liam Paro as the right type of opponent for Mateus to have a homecoming. And whether he's got faith in Liam Paro or not, I don't know. I don't think he has if he's thrown him with Mateus in Puerto Rico. Has he slayed a giant? No, I don't think so. Again, Mateus hasn't beaten anyone of note, Kyle. I understand that he looks like he's a hard, tough, fighter and a giant, as I said there, but I don't, even if he beats Liam, I'm still not going to put him in that elite category until he beats one of those guys. I've seen it too many times. They look great against lesser opposition and don't fire against the absolute elite. So until he fights Haney, even a Prograis, a Tank Davis, a Pitbull, a Teofimo Lopez, or even a Ryan Garcia, I just can't rate him with those guys, even though he's got a belt. Lots of fighters out there that have got belts that probably aren't even in the top 10 of the division as far as class of fighters go. So until he does that, for me, the jury is well and truly out. And even with his last fight, mate, against the Russian, great performance, but it wasn't like he was Mike Tyson knocking out Trevor Berbick, and I think, come on. It's your opinion, though. I know I respect it. So anyway, all right. Liam is world level, in my opinion, says Carl, but I'm a one-eyed Aussie diehard. Aren't we all, Carl? BJ, I'm from Queensland. Anything below 30 is cold. He's a bit precious, aren't there, up there in Queensland, aren't you? Where I am down here, Big J, where I live, it's always about 4 to 5 degrees lower than the rest of the state, just because it's near a higher elevation. All right, Liam nicknamed the prodigy for a reason. I'll say I think he's a live dog in the fight. I'm not that. I mean, look, I'm impressed by Mateus, but I'm not like, wow, this guy is, this guy's a killer and he's going to do this and going to do that. I just don't see it yet. I just don't. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see it at the moment. All right, we'll go down. Carl says Mateus has faced no one of substance. There you go. Exactly right, mate. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to go out and say he's not going to get to that level, but until you actually test yourself against elite fighters, then who knows what they're like. He looks really good so far, and he's made a few fighters quit. I understand that, but as I said, he hasn't fought any of the elites in the division, and there's probably another 5 or 6 guys in front of him. And I just think Liam Paro has the style to make life really hard for him. Now, whether it's enough in Puerto Rico is another thing, but I think he's a great chance in the fight. And I'm not convinced on Matias just yet. And Carl, Liam's about to shock the world. Let's hope you're right there, mate. But he has killed somebody in the ring. Well, is that Matias? Yeah, look, that it doesn't necessarily mean that you're an absolute beast, Carl. I mean, maybe there could have been different circumstances, but look, anyway, we won't keep going with it. I'm not that impressed by him just yet. All right, hey, it looks like I've got to the end of the comments here. So, and what are we? We've only got like 25 minutes to go. I cannot believe I've been sitting here for an hour and 35. It just seems like I started. Eddie using Paro as cannon fodder for Matias, similar to when Sparky was used in Mexico. Yeah, look, I definitely get that impression as well, Big J. But it's up to Liam whether, of course, he takes advantage of the opportunity and does what we hope he can do. And you're right, Stevie Spark went to Mexico as the opponent. Did really well against Montana Love, of course, but then no doubt that Eddie thought, this guy would be pretty good just to throw in over in Mexico, and he lost a disputed decision. That's what worries me. Going to be very, very tough to beat Matias, especially in Puerto Rico. So, excuse me. A bit of water repeating on me there. All right, Anthony A. How are you, mate? Thanks for the comment. Ryan did a Kaiser Soze from the Usual Suspects. How do you pronounce it? Soze? Kaiser Soze from the Usual Suspects. Pulled off the heist. The greatest trick of the devil is to make people believe he doesn't exist. Mate, whatever he did worked. And as I said earlier in the show, there's so many people, even up until the morning of the fight, still saying this fight should be called off. Ryan is not ready to go. He's not mentally stable. And I'm not saying he's totally stable, by the way. I mean, it's not as crazy as what he seemed during the build up to it, but he pulled off the ultimate heist, Anthony. He made us all think that he was crazy and not ready. And not only did he deliberately not make weight so he'd be stronger in the fight with Haney, he made us all think that he wasn't mentally and physically prepared. And as I said earlier, again, when I saw him in the change room, my attitude changed. I still didn't think he would win, by the way, but I just remember seeing him in the change rooms thinking, this guy's, he's here to fight. And whether he can pull it off is another thing. And to his credit, he 100% did that. So, again, full credit to Ryan Garcia. All right, Big J. Precious Queenslanders. Have you ever seen the queue for portable air conditioners when it hits 30 in Melbourne? You sure can't handle the heat. We can't. Well, it does get pretty hot down here, Big J. The problem is that I'll say it again, precious Queenslanders up there, drops below 25, you've all got your jumpers and hoodies and everything on. In Victoria, the problem is we get really, really hot days. We get days in the 40s, and I'm not sure they get those in Queensland, but it's always a nice, leisurely 25 to 30 degrees up there, I think. But here in Victoria, it does get in the 40s. The problem is it could be 40 one day and then 15 the next. This is why we're so up and down and why we're always sick down here. Just so unpredictable. So, buddy Queenslanders, they can't even take any criticism, can they, guys? Back me up there. All right, pound for pound king. How are you, mate? Rewatching the fight. I can't believe Haney doesn't get a point taken off for excessive clinching. There is a clinch every 5 to 10 seconds in rounds 7 to 9. Even against George, he got away with him. Well, I will say he 100% got away with him against George. The problem was George wasn't really doing anything to shrug him off, where Ryan was trying his best to get the referee's attention. But look, I do agree with you, mate. He was clinching a lot. And the referee, I said earlier in the show, just did not have a great night, mate. He just one of those nights for him. Harvey Dock is normally a very, very good referee. But there was excessive clinching. Another thing I will say, did you see that Devin Haney's outfit? That was really bizarre. I know it's one from left field, but it looked like he had grey sweatpants sort of cut down and stitched up at the bottom to tidy them up. They were just grey fabric. They weren't satin or sequins or anything like that. They were just grey fabric. And his boots, they had like a grey sock that went over his boots. So it looked really, really strange. So anyway, just one of those things I saw. But good point there, pound for pound king. Colin Spring, how you going there, mate? After my selections on the weekend with the Garcia Haney fight, I'm looking at turning to topless darts. Has anyone got an idea of the pay-per-view numbers for the fight? Not yet, Colin. I'm actually with you. I'm looking forward to seeing the numbers. I think that would have been solid. I think they would have had a really good viewership, like a train accident or car accident. People want to see the train wreck or the car wreck, don't they? And that's what they would have been looking for Ryan Garcia. But if they tuned in, they would have got one hell of a fight, mate. I know the undercard left a lot to be desired. That was very, very average, I thought. But the main fight was fantastic. So, but good luck with the topless darts there, mate. Anthony, I think Wednesday's no limit card overall is not as bad as the flack it's receiving. Yeah, look, I've been critical of the main fight, Anthony, as if you watch this show, you'll know. But the rest of the card looks really, really good. Let's have a quick look while we're going there. Let's bring it up there. I'll get your comment off the screen for a sec. All right, so you can see there. So Nikita Tszyu, Danilo Creati for the Australian Super Welterweight belt. I have no interest in that fight whatsoever, except to see Tim Tszyu, what's his name? Nikita Tszyu, hopefully improve even more than what he has in the last few fights. Looking forward to Jerome. Is it Pampaloni? Let's say you pronounce it. He's 18-0 fighting Malik Zinard, who's 21-0. So that's a good fight. Cesar Mateo Tapia. Can't wait to see him back in action. 16-0 against Kaiba Gonzalez. 20-0 for the WBO Global title. So really good fight there. Benjamin Hussein, Mason Smith. Look, that'll be a good fight. Another 10-rounder. So we've got what? 4 10-rounders and a 12-rounder. That's going to be a long, long night. Jazzy Parr, 4-0 against Sarah Watt, 4-5-2. Will be a good fight to see Jazzy Parr show her stuff on a pay-per-view. Lynn Sandstrom, of course, I missed her there, fighting for the WBA World Super Flyweight title. She's 8-2-2 against Clara Lescure, I think that's how you pronounce it, 10-0. Chanel Dargan, 3-1-2, never in a bad fight. She's fighting Christine Gillespie. And to round out the card, you've got Charlie Kazi. I'm not sure he's still on the card. He's got a TBA opponent. But Andrei Mikhailovich, he's another DNL defector, 20-0. Are they still going to see or try and see if he will fight Isaac Hardman? We will see what happens in that one. He's against Les Sherrington. Now, I'm a little bit concerned about this fight. I will say, guys, Les Sherrington has seen much better days. I'm a little bit worried for that fight. I'm not sure whether he's a late replacement or whatever it might be, but Andrei Mikhailovich is a killer. He can punch. He's young. He's hungry. Les Sherrington, I'm being polite, has probably been a journeyman for the best part of the last few years. Hadn't fought for a few years before this. I'm just going to quickly check on his record there. I know he had a fight earlier this year. He must have been on holiday in Thailand and decided to have a fight and stop someone in the first round. But you see before that, his last 3 fights, knocked out. Second round, third round, second round. So, yeah, I do worry about that one, guys. But yeah, but no, he might surprise us. But Mikhailovich, I can't see that fight going any more than a couple of rounds. And you can see there it's only scheduled for 6 rounds anyway. So looking at the rounds there, we have, what's that, 22, 32, 42, 52, 58, 64, 76 rounds of boxing on the card. Now, we won't get all these fights. Of course, I'm not quite sure which ones are the prelims. I'm assuming it would be obviously down to Jazzy Parr against Sarah Watt. But still, we have 52 rounds of boxing, which could equate to 5 or maybe even 6 hours of boxing, because I'm not quite sure I can see any knockouts in those fights. So if it starts till at 7, we could be there till midnight. So good luck getting up the next morning for the dawn service if that is the case. So, but yeah, I'm with you. Was it Anthony? Was it? Yeah. Look, certainly not giving the whole card any flack, Anthony, but still, I don't see the sense in having Nikita Tszyu fight Danilo Creati. I think it's just a nothing fight and doesn't achieve anything, if you ask me. But I'm looking forward to the rest of the card. And again, I'll be doing the watch along from 7 p.m. Having said that, though, geez, I've got to get up early for the dawn service. I don't want to be up till midnight doing the watch along, but I will. I will do it. All right. Haney would have had a good 15 pounds on George. Yep, I think so. What's that, Big J? You give me more flack down the chump. Come on, mate. Bill Hack, would love to see original deep dive back, Pete, Lynden, and Tassie, but I do love this episode as much plenty room in a week. Yeah, look, the reason I haven't, Bill, is just because everyone's got so much on. I think I've said on here before, Peter, Tassie, and even Noonan Boy, and whoever else we've had on the show. It's just hard getting everyone on a regular basis on at 7 o'clock, and that's probably why I've just sort of gone more solo, just because it's just a bit easier on everyone, mate. But you never know, we might get the crew back at some stage. Yes, Anthony. I agree, Anthony. Big J, bit sensitive. Queenslanders, mate. We all know they're a bit soft. Don't want to hit the hornet's nest there, do I? I can just see the comments coming now, but Queenslanders, mate. Anyway, we'll move on. Did I say that Rowan Murdoch has a fight coming up, or am I imagining things? I haven't seen anything, Jules. Phyllis, any of you've heard something? Actually, no, I take that back. It was a week or so ago. I reckon I saw something on social media, but nothing confirmed as far as I know, mate. But if you know something that I don't, fill us all in. No Limit, definitely teeing up that Sandstrom versus Par fight. Yeah, you can see that, can't you, Big J? Well, about time they're showing a little bit of strategy, Big J, because there hasn't been much so far, has there? It hasn't been really anything with the boys at No Limit, and let's hopefully now there's one thing you've noticed in the last couple of weeks, if you follow them on social media, they're starting to sign fighters, and predominantly women or female fighters. So I think you might see them, especially with the Ace Boxing out there, Tasman Fighters out there, Icons Boxing out there as well. You've got someone like Will Tomlinson with Wildfighter snapping at the heels as well. I think it makes sense just to start shoring up the stable, I think, and signing all these fighters to agreements and contracts, so that with all these pay-per-views and Wednesday night on Fox events they have, that they've got the fighters to put on and good young fighters to fight each other. So good strategy if that is the case from No Limit. Yes, Axie Man. I'm sure I saw talk about Zarafa potentially fighting Chris Eubank Jr. Yeah, I did see that, Axie Man. Yes. Look, whether or not it comes off is another thing. But look, if Michael Zarafa takes that fight, good luck to him. Good on him. He's going to honour that PBC contract. I'm not quite sure what Chris Eubank Jr. gets out of it though. I mean, if he beats Zarafa by anything other than maybe a first round knockout, it's not really a win of any note, is it? And Chris doesn't fight regularly enough, in my opinion. And to fight Michael, and look, the only thing, I think I said this again yesterday on the watch along, the only thing I could probably see is that the PBC guys, they want this one fight deal with Michael done and dusted, and they probably said, well, look, we'll just put Chris Eubank Jr. with him, and then we're done. So who knows? But good on Michael if he takes it. From his point of view, I can see why he would do it. He wants to, it's sink or swim, jump straight back in. And if you win, who knows what can happen after that. And if you lose, well, at least you've had a crack. Chris Eubank Jr., I don't see the sense in that at all, unless, as I said, PBC have said, you're fighting this guy. But we'll see. I've got bad news. I didn't realise Mikhailovich was also on the card. Are we going to get 2 lots of Peaches thongs? Does he train Mikhailovich as well, Jules? Oh, there. Thanks, mate. Now that's all. Thanks to you. It's all I'm going to be focusing on Wednesday night is thongs. I'm going to do my best, by the way, not to mention the thongs, but I think you know me well enough by now, guys, that that's all I'm going to be talking about the whole way. And yep, Axie Man. Yep, you just said about the PBC. According to BoxRec, Murdoch has a fight in May with an opponent still to be named. Okay, well let's have a quick look at that, shall we? Rowan Murdoch. Let's see. I could always send Mike Altamura a message. He'll well, no, he probably won't let me know because it hasn't been made official yet. Where is it? Oh, it's in Queensland. The Gold Coast Turf Club in Bundall, Queensland. Well, that's a bit odd, actually. I'll bring you guys in so you can see it. I'll just take off your comment there, Jules. That's surprising. Although, look, they probably just want to get him a fight. So who are the fighters on that card? So we've got, looks like the main event, Alexander Deviatov against whatever his name is. So he's 15-0 against 13-1. Rowan Murdoch, 27-3 against the TBA. Not really familiar with any of the other guys on that card. Yeah, look, I just think that would be a case of just getting Rowan back in the ring, I would say. But yeah, that's interesting. All right, before we go, guys, who is buying this Wednesday night's card? I think, again, I've been critical of No Limit's last few shows, but I will say apart from the main event, which really should be about, but anyway, I think the rest of the card is quite attractive, and I would encourage everyone to buy the card. Looks like there's some really good fights on there. The only downside, of course, as I said, it looks like there's 52 rounds on the main card, which means with Anzac Day the following day, it might be a very late night. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Hopefully we might get a few early knockouts. Maybe Nikita will do us all a favour and get it done in 1 or 2 rounds. I've just got a feeling, though, that Creati will be ultra negative in the fight and try and survive. We know he's got okay skills, I will say, but he has no power whatsoever. I don't know how he's going to keep Nikita Tszyu off him. If Nikita's in a bad mood and wants to end this fight quick, I just worry about the welfare of Creati. But whatever happens, whatever. But I'm really looking forward to some of those fights on the rest of the card. Namely, as I said, I'm looking forward to Jerome Pampaloni. Hope I've pronounced that right. Matteo Tapia. The girls' fight should be really good. Lynn Sandstrom and Clara Lescurat for that world title. And even Jazzy Parr, Chanel Dargan, some really good young fighters in there as well. Jules says, I will be buying. Got to support Aussie fighters and watch along. Yep, good stuff, Jules. Yeah, well, even if you're getting the fight, join in the watch along. Now, I know it doesn't really make sense to be watching the fight, but if you're watching it, just even if you got it on your phone and just have it playing while you're watching it and commenting here or there and whatever, it's just another way to engage with other fight fans out there of that are doing similar things to what you are, and just to bounce. There's nothing worse, I think, especially if you're by yourself watching a fight and you want to comment and you can't, but you're going to talk to the dog or your missus who couldn't give a shit about it. So it's just a way of interacting with other fight fans. So even if you're watching it, tune in. As I said, have it going on your phone and chime in where you want to. And if you're not getting it, then of course you'll have up-to-date live comments and results and all that as we go. Bar 30 seconds or so, I think I'm behind. So, all right. Anthony says, I'll be buying it. Overall, it's a good content and a few substantial titles on the line. Yeah, and I've been super critical of No Limit, as I said, but I will take my hat off to him. Apart again from the main event, the show itself, I'm actually looking forward to some really, really good fights. I just don't understand why they have, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 fights on the card. Now they've sort of overcompensated, haven't they? All right, and James Brown is good for Nikita to see that kind of style. Yeah, look, you're right, James. That is one good upside to it, and that might be a reason why they've matched Nikita up with Creati. I've got a feeling it's just because there's no other fighters that they wanted to fight that was maybe available for whatever reason, so they've gone for Creati. But look, you're right. It's not a bad way to have someone that's a bit tricky. He's only had he had 10 fights? Yeah, he's had 10 fights. So he still had 2 more than Nikita, and he's fought Zarafa, so that was good experience for Creati. And he's had apparently a very good amateur career. So look, it's a test for him, for someone that's maybe going to be a bit more negative. He's faced some that have either gone at him or been negative, but this guy's going to be a little bit of everything. So look, that's probably one thing that will be good for Nikita. James, if that's what Nikita gets out of it and it prepares him for some bigger fights down the track, then no drama whatsoever. And it looks like Brock Jarvis will be later in the year, which I think will be definitely a fight worth getting. I think that'll be a great Aussie fight to see. And Bill Hack, yep, it's domestic. I have to buy it. Aussie. I agree there, mate. So, look, guys, I think that should do it. I know we're 5 or 6 minutes early, but looks like we've got to the end of the comments there, and not much else to talk about. Again, I'll be on Wednesday night from 7 p.m. for the live watch along Nikita Tszyu, Danilo Creati. And the weekly roundup will be back on Friday as well, guys. I haven't done it since I've been home, but I'm sort of back on track with everything. So that will be back on Friday as well. And whatever else we can conjure up. No doubt there'll be a review of Wednesday night's show as well in there at some stage. So, guys, hope you have a good week. If you do watch the fights on Wednesday, hope you enjoy them. Don't forget to join in here if you have the desire to, and chat with the rest of us boxing fans. And hope you have a good week, and we'll see you next time.